get going underway. Thanks for the in-camera part. So a reminder to the people that are online to sign into the meeting as well, please.
What was that?
Remember, Don, you need to sign into the meeting on ESB.
You don't have to sign it, you just keep on the line.
Okay.
Because I never hung up, so it's just, that's how I did last time. I never did any signing in it.
So, and I think he's talking about ESB, that's all.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I thought you meant the telephone.
Sorry, Don. No, I'm not the telephone. ESB. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, good. I misunderstood. I'll apologize.
Happy birthday to you, shabby 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 doo. Oh, happy birthday to you, shabby 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 doo. Oh, happy birthday. Oh, happy birthday. Oh, happy birthday to you, shabby 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 doo.
Oh, that was a good one, thanks.
So you can imagine me doing that in the school over a microphone to people that were just like mortified about for me to sing happy birthday to them. I did that for about 30 years.
It sounded like a pro.
This is true, and the PA systems weren't very good either.
Oh, whoa, whoa, you had birthday sung to you while you were a little pup.
The PA system.
So welcome to Sunrise School Division regular board meeting for October the 5th. My name is Paul Mang. I'm the board chair. Just so that you know, we have four trustees including myself, five trustees including myself here. Trustee Barry, Trustee Duma, Trustee Reed, and Trustee Harris are with us. And on the phone, we have Trustee Nickel, Trustee Pachakowski, Trustee Rowland, and Trustee Inslee. They're all with us via phone. And of course, in our here we have Superintendent Timko, Secretary Treasurer Carlton, Assistant Superintendent Julian, Board Support Bonato, and we have Anthony Penner, who is one of our presenters here tonight. So welcome to our board. I'll call our meeting to order at 7:07, and please stand for O Canada as we have Gillis School. Please stand if you're able to do so. Thank you to Gillis School. We have a treaty acknowledgement, and Trustee Harris will lead us in our treaty acknowledgement, please.
We acknowledge the traditional land upon which Sunrise School Division resides as Treaty 1 territory. We honor our partnership with Canada's original peoples and respect the gifts of Indigenous history, culture, and language. We commit to moving forward in partnership with our communities in a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation.
Which, Trustee Harris. 2.1 on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda, so be it resolved that the board approve the agenda. And a move and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Harris, seconded by Trustee Reed. Any comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. Thank you. Past 9-0. 3.0 is about chair's comments. A reminder to send all questions to scarlton@sunrisesd.ca. Name and address of sender must be included in the email, and we'll try to get that. We'll try to answer your questions. I'm also going to turn around and open it up to sharing a story. I want to tell you that I'm coaching a high school hockey team, so I'm coaching the Powerview Saugeen High School hockey team. And so I had a chance to get into the school to go and talk to the students, and it was refreshing getting back into the schools. So I got into the school, and of course I got vetted through the school, and they wanted to show everything for me to get in, and I used our front doorbell, and it was pretty cool about getting buzzed into the school. But it was great to see students and staff in the school, and so I think, Kath, we need to find a way to find out about how we can get trustees back into schools, because it was refreshing, and there was lots of people coming up and talking to me, and really I was going to talk to students about high school hockey, but I would say that I would encourage you to get, if we can find a way about how to get trustees back in schools, because part of it is that I was asking questions about learning and how things were going, and I think that we all miss being in schools and being able to talk to to teachers and kids and that kind of stuff. So I think that if we get a chance to go ahead and do that, let's figure out how we can. And I know that they're talking about trying to limit as many people in our buildings as possible, but I think it's got to be healthy for our trustees and healthy for our staff to see our trustees in our buildings and asking questions and going ahead and talking. So it was really great to see, so I just wanted to share that story. I think that we want to share a story around the room, so there's a few of you who want to share a story. Trustee Harris, do you want to share?
Each year, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, that is UNESCO, observes World Teachers' Day. Today happens to be that day this year. It was introduced in 1994 to highlight the contributions and achievements of education workers around the world, as well as drawing attention to teachers' objectives in their work. The theme of World Teachers' Day 2021 is Teachers at the Heart of Education Recovery. It aims to recognize the tireless efforts of teachers to keep lessons going and ensure minimal disruptions to pupils' learning over the course of the pandemic. I would certainly like to recognize and thank all of the Sunrise teachers for their efforts these last 19 months during the pandemic.
Great comment, Trustee Harris. Thanks for going ahead and sharing that. Much appreciated. Anyone else want to share a story? Trustee Reed?
Oh, okay. There's the subject of my story up on the screen. I don't think it really does it justice, but it's quite a good picture. Two teachers in Lactabani Senior, Becky Reynolds and Amy Yuzakis, came up with the idea that they would like to make a mural to help in their courses. Becky teaches Indigenous affairs and Amy does the art. So they got together and they got a group of about 100 Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, staff, community leaders, and local tradesmen. Their inspiration was the Great Binding Law, which was agreed upon at Turtle Lodge. And I don't know much about Turtle Lodge, but apparently they came up with the Great Binding Law there. It teaches that Mother Earth is alive and gives us everything we need to live. We are connected to Mother Earth by an invisible umbilical cord. Now, the mural depicts this principle, that we are all connected, the stars, the birds, the fish, the plants, animals, you name it. They had a local artist come in. Her name was Anne Bergan. She sort of took the leadership or mentorship role in this, being an artist. They got together with staff and students for 12 days of sketching, painting, and in the words of a few students, the mural seemed to come to life. The Arts, I forgot to mention earlier that the Arts Council of Manitoba had given them a grant, and I don't know what size that grant was, but they sent a person out to see it when it was finished, and they were very, very impressed with the way their money had been spent, and they basically said that the person that came out said that there's no other school in Manitoba has anything like this. So that was quite a kudo. It's too bad you can't be there to see it. It's I have the dimension here somewhere, but it's on my speech. I think it was 60 feet is the diameter of that picture. And what you see there, that's the side of the gymnasium. And it's on there, so 60 feet I think is bigger than this room. I'm not sure, but well, I'm pretty sure it's bigger than this room, and it requires a lot of local expertise just to get it hung up on the wall, and people from the community go and take a look at it, and it sort of spreads by word of mouth. We haven't, or the girls haven't had a chance to do any interviews or anything with the newspaper, or to get some newspaper coverage, but that's our mural. So
Thanks, Trustee Reed. Thank you. Anyone else want to share a story? Superintendent Timko.
Awesome. I wanted to share with folks that last week the province celebrated Truth and Reconciliation Day on September 30th, and I was also out at Springwell Colony. And Springwell Colony students in kindergarten to grade 4 and in the grade 5 to 8 class under the direction of Ms. Rand and Mr. Waldner did their own book and entitled it Tears from Above. So each of the students did stories, and they did some learning and talking about residential schools and residential school survivors. But they also added an element where the book goes home to households, and each of the families gets an opportunity to write a comment in the back of the book, which I thought was a really, really neat element to the work they're doing at the school over at Springwell Colony School. So that's one shout out. If folks want to look at it, I can certainly pass that around. But I need to get it back. I promised Ms. Rand I would get it back to her. I have a second shout out, and I just want to grab it from an email, because every now and then principals share some things with me, and I get the opportunity to then share them with you. So I just want to read this out. Here we go. This morning, Enola School was doing their Terry Fox Walk, Truth and Reconciliation Walk in Enola. We have 4 different cohorts going at different times. We have a big Every Child Matters flag that was being carried by students at the front. While heading down the sidewalk, they came upon some construction, a truck and a backhoe. The operator of the backhoe stops, gets out of his machine. He walks up to the group headed by one of the teachers, Ms. Dent. The gentleman is Indigenous. He proceeded safe distance to tell the group how happy and impressed he is with what he is seeing. That a group would do this really warmed his heart, and said that it meant so much to him. It was so good for the kids and the teacher to hear that from someone that just happened to see them on the street. Certainly made the day of the staff at the school.
Thanks, Kath. Anyone else want to share? Trustee Duma?
Just a little report on, I know that we've had band programs. We've kind of missed that for the last year and 2 years, I guess. And so just a report sort of from the Dugald School that this grade 7 and 8 band is going to be performing outdoors in the parking lot of the Dugald Estates tomorrow morning. So you'll be able to hear kids playing their instruments, and delightful for the Dugald Estates folks to hear that. So it's at 11:30 tomorrow morning. I don't know how public it is, but you'll be able to hear kids playing there tomorrow. So I thought I would share that.
Thanks, Trustee Duma. Anybody online want to share a story? Okay, hearing none, I probably should share this story. So in a preseason hockey game, Powerview played Springfield Collegiate last week. Powerview lost, Springfield Collegiate won. So I'm not very happy about reporting that the Springfield Collegiate gave us a licking, but congratulations to Mr. Wojcik's team, and we'll be back. More updates later. Okay, so that was a little humble pie that I ate there. Okay, so let's move on. We've got principal from Gilda School, Anthony Penner. So Ms. Timko, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, just welcome to Tony Penner, who is the principal at Gillis School and is going to tell you a little bit about Gillis School. I'm going to try to be his Vanna White and advance the slides, so floor is all yours, Tony.
Thank you, Superintendent Timko. Thank you, Board, for having me. I have lots of questions about the game and whether or not the visit to the school happened before or after the loss. I'm a little curious about that, but well, that's probably for another time. So, Thanks for having me here today. I'm excited to share with you a little bit about our journey to our school goal, a little bit about how we came to our goal and where we hope to take it this year. So, although slightly tweaked, we're into the second year of our journey with our current school goal in the area of literacy. Our goal for the current school year is that by June 2022, all Gillis School students will be able to write in a variety of forms at developmentally appropriate levels. Further, all students will achieve at least 1 year of growth in their writing ability. That is our goal. I'm sure it was in our report to the community. I'm excited to share with you how we moved towards that goal and how we arrived at that goal. Previously, Gillis School had goals both in the areas of numeracy as well as literacy. The numeracy goal focused on foundational math concepts, while the literacy goal focused on communicating through developmentally appropriate writing. Then the pandemic hit and our goals were derailed. Our focus shifted from curricular outcomes to mental health, student and staff wellness, and ever-changing health protocols. It was quite the time to walk into a new school as principal. In February, with staff suffering from pandemic fatigue and a sense that far too many factors were out of our control, we engaged in a deep dive into collaborative inquiry and the power of collective efficacy. Collective efficacy, which is essentially the shared belief that our collective efforts will positively impact student achievement, has been shown to have the largest effect size on student achievement based on the meta-analysis conducted by John Hattie. If we have more than 15 minutes, I'd love to review our work in collaborative inquiry. And as Superintendent Magnon talked about entering the school, once health protocols permit, I'd be happy to share some of the OneNote documents that we have and some of the elements of our journey that we had. In our journey, each collaborative team identified their need, created a theory of action to address their inquiry question, and then implemented their plan. Our grade 1-2 team focused on descriptive writing. Based on observation checklists as well as teacher and student evaluations based on predetermined criteria, they found that 83% of their students increased their use of oral and written descriptive language, and 100% of their students demonstrated an increase in writing stamina. Our grade 3-4 team observed increased writing stamina in all students and more purposeful writing from their students as a result of their efforts to focus on writing for specific audiences. Finally, our grade 5-6 team observed deeper personal connections to text as a result of their collaborative inquiry focusing on purposefully exposing students to a variety of written genres. What was interesting to me was that each team identified a need in the area of literacy, which led nicely into our goal setting for the 21-22 school year. This graph shows our student achievement from the March reporting period that shows the incredibly high number of Gillis students that have a very good to thorough understanding of foundational math concepts in relation to the lower number of students that have a very good to thorough understanding of reading and writing. The staff at Gillis School have invested their time heavily into the area of numeracy over the last number of years, and the results are outstanding. Based on report card data from March, 81% of grade 1-6 students had a very good to thorough understanding of foundational math concepts, as evidenced by student marks in the area of knowledge and understanding. Only 4% of students had limited understanding or did not demonstrate an understanding of foundational math concepts. The need for recovery learning was more pronounced in the area of literacy, and particularly in writing. Once again, using March report card data, although 82% of our students were on pace for 1 year of growth or greater in their writing skills, only 48% of our students demonstrated a very good to thorough application of concepts and skills in the area of writing. With the success we saw in our collaborative inquiry process and the pronounced need we see in the area of writing, we decided to carry on with our goal in the area of literacy, specifically in writing. As a result of this need, as I mentioned earlier, we tweaked the previous year's literacy goal. That really was not our primary focus for much of the year. Once again, our goal for this year is that by June 2022, all Gillis students will be able to write in a variety of forms at developmentally appropriate levels. Further, all students will achieve at least 1 year of growth in their writing ability. To achieve this goal, we're incorporating a response to intervention model with strategies to support each level. First and foremost, tapping into the success we saw from our collaborative inquiry process and the power of collective efficacy, our timetable is adjusted to allow for common prep times for staff to collaborate and share their collective expertise. This will provide teachers with greater alignment of their instructional strategies. Each collaborative group is using a OneNote notebook to document their progress to share with other teams. Formal goals and professional learning plans are still being developed, but the works of Jennifer Saravale are already being discussed to help guide instructional strategies. Additionally, collaboration time was aligned for all grade groups on the same day of school cycle, so we can provide more PD without disruption to classroom instruction, meaning that I've set up all PD, all of our collaborative time is on day 1 this year, so that if we do have a presenter come in, there's opportunities to meet with each of our collaborative groups without disrupting any classroom instruction. Secondly, all of our teachers are engaging in the literacy pilot project with our two literacy program leaders, Joanna Captain, and Suzanne Deanspear, focusing on strengthening Tier 1 comprehensive literacy instruction based on the works of Jan Richardson. Tier 1 strategies are designed to target all students, so students with specific learning plans, as well as those without a prescriptive plan, will benefit from these instructional strategies. The process of transitioning from literacy continuums to progressions is ongoing, and part of that transition will be introducing the student version of the progressions to the students for them to set goals with regards to their own growth. To address Tier 2 and Tier 3 learning needs, we've made some other adjustments with our staffing and practices. We adjusted staffing so we could have a dedicated literacy support staff member focusing primarily in the early years to support the early intervention model. Our student services team will also be working with classroom teachers so that the literacy progressions are reflected in class profiles. This will allow for a more responsive and targeted approach to allocating student services support. To strengthen our entire staff's understanding of the literacy progressions and class profiles, Mrs. Deanspear and Mrs. Captain worked with our staff in the morning yesterday on literacy progressions and sunrise tracking tools. Then in the afternoon, Mr. Fieldberg worked with staff so that the class profiles reflect the morning work on progressions to highlight areas of strength and areas requiring support. Through the use of our collaboration time, our professional learning plans, and our PD days, we have a responsive approach to address our school goal for this year. However, beyond our literacy goal, we also have other priority areas that we'll be supporting through school-based decision-making dollars and other funds. Numeracy will always be a priority area, and although it's not a formal goal area, staff are using some collaboration time, as well as the support of our divisional numeracy program leader, Alan Stevenson, to align our practices by incorporating the MRLC pacing guide at all grade levels. One of the barriers we have found to improving our writing as a staff is the actual mechanics of writing. Based on recommendations from occupational therapists, we have all kindergarten to grade 4 classes using the Learning Without Tears program, formerly known as the Handwriting Without Tears, to improve the mechanics of writing in order to build stamina and remove one of the common barriers to writing in the later elementary years. Additionally, we'll be utilizing some of our SPDM funds in conjunction with our Educational for Sustainable Development grant and our Indigenous Academic Achievement grant to engage in land-based learning. Land-based learning typically incorporates Indigenous teaching, but it's also things like learning about our 5 senses in kindergarten by observing nature, or in grade 4 science, having tangible learning experiences about animal habitats and communities. The learning opportunities to incorporate nature are vast and truly a passion for some of our teachers. As I'm sure you're aware, if you drove past Gillis School, our outdoor space is pretty exposed to the elements. So last year we utilized the grant to enhance our outdoor space by planting some trees to provide a little more shelter from the north winds. With some local support, the trees were watered and cared for throughout the summer, and they should certainly be a help heading into our winter months this year. Our plan for this year is still being developed by our IAA and ESD committees. There have been many discussions about incorporating community voice and intergenerational learning, but evolving health protocols may limit our plans. For example, with the construction of more multifamily dwellings in Tyndall-Garson area, we would like to bring in some local seniors to work with our students on our garden beds and other sustainable food source projects. We're holding off on that until health protocols permit. As a new administrator at Gales, I think it's important to acknowledge that the strength of Gales School is quite simply its staff and its community. Since the start of the pandemic, we've been unable to engage our community in traditional ways, and in their absence, our staff has stepped up in tremendous ways to care for the academic, health, and social emotional needs of our students. Our Phoenix mascot really is appropriate in representing our staff during this pandemic, because like the Phoenix, they continue to rise and evolve as teachers and colleagues to meet the needs of their students and their peers. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Nicely done. Thanks very much. You have to turn your microphone off. Okay. So I'm going to give trustees an opportunity to ask you questions, Anthony, and we'll see where we get to. So the floor is open for anybody. I'm going to do everybody in here, and then I'll go to the people online. Trustee Berry?
Thanks for the presentation. It was very interesting. Just so I understand, is it Gillis School is a K to 6? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And is there French immersion offered there? And if there is it a lot of kids enrolled in French immersion?
No, our students that are enrolled in French immersion travel to Beaujeu earliers.
Trustee Duma?
Thank you, Anthony. 2 questions. You do cursive writing in your school? First question, and I'll give you the second question. How is your parent council going this year? Or what are you doing with your parent council?
So cursive writing, we wouldn't have cursive writing as a focus. However, there are some cursive writing as part of the handwriting without tears. As I said, the focus of that is more of focusing on some of the mechanics, some of the occupational therapist recommendations to work on a proper pencil grip to avoid some of that fatigue. So it's not an area that's assessed per se, but it's something that supports the writing skills and the growth. And as far as our pack, it's something that I put in the last 2 newsletters, trying to get it mobile again. I've got 2 parents that have expressed interest thus far. I think my next step is certainly to kind of I've tried communicating with the previous pack. They're at the age where their students are aging out and they kind of want to hand off the reins, so we're hoping to get the PAC rolling again, but at this point it's not functioning.
Anyone else in here have a question? Anybody have a question online? Okay, so while the rest of you are thinking of questions, Anthony, I'm very happy with your presentation. I've been looking for this kind of information for a little while. This is like when people talk about buses, my eyes roll, but when we're talking about education, I guess my eye focus. And so you've talked about goals, you've given us data certainly about how you're going ahead and doing things. You're talking about some of the challenges that you're having and you're addressing those challenges. One question I have, you talked about in your Tier 2 and Tier 3, you talked about that you've taken a literacy support person to go ahead and work with some of those students then in that category. Is that right? Did I hear you say that?
Yeah, that's correct. We kind of had multiple people sharing different roles, and so we kind of streamlined some of the positions a little bit. So we do have our reading recovery person in the afternoon is now also supporting early years literacy in the morning based on what we're seeing in some of our class profiles and some of the assessments that are coming in. So her schedule is still evolving a little bit at this point, but at this point she's helped with the grade 1 observation surveys and we'll be providing some more small group instruction and that stuff as we move forward.
So my question is, great, you know, I'm really happy about that, that's going on. At the end of the day, how do you know that that's going to be working? So when you reflect at the end of the year about how you've taken some of your resources to have this person do something, and if you don't have the answer right now, that's fine, but what I'm looking for is, at the end of the day, how do you know that what you've allocated those resources to, how do you know it's working?
Well, I think that when I look at our numbers from this year based on the data we had, that where we saw a number of students continue with the year's worth of growth, we also want to make sure that they're moving beyond that year plus worth of growth, so we're now moving into that very good to thorough based on report card data as well as on the reading and writing progressions, since this will be primarily literacy focused, that we're seeing growth in those progressions, and then it's also reflected in the class profiles that teachers are updating and working with the student services team on throughout the year.
To see the smile on my face is, that's what great. I'm really happy with you kind of giving us that information, because it's a long time before we've been talking about, you know, how students are doing in schools and the data that you're providing, and that you're showing that you're providing data, you're making data-based decisions on some of the things. So nice work. Thanks very much for doing that.
Thank you. And that's where we were in February, which is why we jumped in that collaborative inquiry, because I think we were, as a staff, they were done talking health protocols and they wanted to talk student achievement. So thank you.
Anybody else have questions for Mr. Penner? Kat, did you want to add anything?
Just thank you for taking the time to come share with us. I'm going to do a quick little shout out. We're all learners in Sunrise, and Mr. Penner is going to be a prime example of that, because he's going to go log back onto one of his university courses in the office now and scurry. Thank you, Tony.
Do you know what? Thanks very much, certainly on behalf of the board, for coming. And again, you talked about being a new administrator to Gillis School. I think that you've got some really good plans that are in place, that we're in pretty good shape at Gillis School. Thanks for going ahead and doing that. Anyone else? All right. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
We move on. We have our STA representatives here, Cole and Laura. Did you want to introduce them, Kathy, and go from there?
I'll add last names. This is Cole Saracen, your SCA president, and Laura Skiba, who is a teacher at SMS this year, and she's also the PD chair for the SCA Contractual PD, and they've come to share with you some wisdom and knowledge about what they're doing. I need like 30 seconds to get back on my computer and get your PowerPoint up.
Good evening, Cole Sterrick and Sunrise Teachers. I'd sure hate to blow the interview. Laura's going to be presenting that.
Hey, Keith, shut it off. How do I turn it on?
It's on.
It is? Okay. The light's not on. Okay. So my name's Laura Skiba, and I am the Professional Development Chair for the Sunrise Teachers Association. So I'm here today just to give you a review of the 2020-21 school year and the funds that were spent. So some of the topics are going to be our rationale for professional development, just as a review for those that might be new or aren't familiar with the rationale, and the overview of what our program looks like, and the funding criteria. I'll talk a little bit about the PD committee and our responsibilities. Sorry, Kathy, I'm moving pretty quick. And the application numbers by certain categories that I have separated them into. And then we'll look at the 2020-21 financials, and then just kind of go over some challenges and possibly some recommendations from what the year of 2020 brought. So the rationale for professional development is to fulfill professional learning plans, school plans, and divisional goals. To be more effective in addressing classroom diversity, to support students' individual needs, professional learning objectives, professional growth, learning new techniques, processes, or materials, developing, enhancing qualifications, embracing learning opportunities, and then, of course, professional commitment to improve. Our overview states that the Contractual Professional Development Fund, which is Article 28 of the Collective Agreement, was created as a result of the Sunrise School Division and Sunrise Teachers Association's collective bargaining in the 2011-2012 school year. The Contractual Professional Development Fund is intended to stimulate individual professional growth and provide financial assistance for as many teachers as possible. All teachers, except those on leave, have access to the funds regardless of contract time. This assistance will be used to fund attendance at conferences, seminars, webinars, workshops, and professional programs organized by outside agencies. It may also be used to fund attendance for collaborative, teacher-initiated professional development activities as per the guidelines. Funding allocation is on a first-come, first-served basis, and our annual allocation is $120,000. To qualify for professional development funds, these are the criteria that we have. It needs to it has to have at least one of the following criteria, so it has to meet divisional goals, school goals, be a part of their teacher professional learning plan, growth plans or goals, or their teacher assignments. The oversight is that we have 2 layers. So all application forms must have the principal and or supervisor's signature authorizing the leave. And should it not, we send it back to make sure that it has it. Principals, clinicians, and program leaders require the signature of the superintendent or designate. And then the PD committee, which consists of myself and 2 other members, review all PD applications that come in, making sure that the criteria is there. Again, if something's missing, we notify them and allow for resubmission. And it is done prior to any approval. The PD committee responsibilities. The Contractual Professional Development Fund Committee shall consist of up to 5 members. We have a total of 4. The association president, myself, the Professional Development Chair, and 2 members at large, up to 3 members. The members at large should be appointed by the committee chair and approved by council, which they were. Duties and responsibilities of the PD committee. The Contractual Professional Development Fund Committee shall have the responsibility to ensure that the CPDF functions as outlined by the collective agreement, review and make decisions on individual applications, review reports on the activity on a regular basis,
provide information to Sunrise School Division and the Sunrise Teachers Association on the experience. All right, so looking at last year, our categories for funding amounts, we had, well, this is what you can apply for. So in province, with no substitute, they can apply for up to $650. If a substitute is required, we have increased that to $900 to allow for sub fees to be paid. Out of province, no substitute was $1,650. Substitute required up to 3 days of sub cost in addition to. So we didn't put a limit on that because you may not need 3 days, you might only need 2. So we just capped it off at what it would be for no substitute and then added what they might need up to 3 days for being out of province. And then we have an allocation for university courses up to $650 a year. Our application numbers last year were very low. We only saw 99 applications compared to sometimes over 200 applications. We only had 1 cancellation that was reported to us. Local, we had 58 PDs applications that were for in Manitoba. Of course, we had no out of province due to travel or international. University, we had 41 applications come through for a total of 99. Some of the trends that we saw when looking back at the applications, we had, of course, the university courses, with the focus being on counseling, guidance, student support services, and administration or leadership. There was some work with trauma, mental health, wellness, early childhood intervention. There was some music clinics in there, and then we had reading recovery, reading success, so really a focus on the reading part of literacy. So as we move through the financials, I'm sorry it's so small, my apologies, but anything that is red will be any canceled applications, so you'll see one of those through. The yellow are the ones that have not yet been processed, which was an extremely high number. Reimbursement from 2019-2020 that got paid out in the 2020-21 financial year. So those will be in blue. The green are all the ones that were processed and gone through, received the reimbursements, and then the purple are the ones that are identified as the university courses. So I'm not sure how much you want me to discuss this. You can see on this page we have 3 yellows that are the ones that stand out to me. Because those are the ones that have not been processed yet, so they have not put in their claim forms to receive money back, and we're unsure if those were canceled because they did not contact us to let us know. Here's just more continuation. The one red there is the one that notified us of cancellations. Again, all the green are the ones that have been processed, and then there's the purple. Keep on going. And then at the bottom of this one, we had 3 people who applied for their funding back last September when the books for 2019-2020 were closed, but they still were paid out of our funds from 2020-2021. So the totals, our max allocations, when we look at PD was just over 34,000, so 34,159.67. Our sub fees came to $930. We had mileage that we paid out of $419.50. Meals was $387.50. And then, so you got your total that carries across there. That very last column, the $3,754, that's what goes back into the fund. So that would have been any of the unprocessed, all those yellows that we saw, or any greens that were processed, but maybe they didn't actually claim back all the money that they had actually asked for in the first place. That goes back into the fund. So that's why you see a $3,700. That would be going back into our funds. So SAGE or MTS PD, we had $3,700. It was not attended well, and that was just given the conditions that we had. There were some school-based PD options that were offered that day. There wasn't a lot of options, and things were being canceled through MTS because they weren't set up for virtual like they are now. So our committed total was $37,895.63, and the total that we put through was $34,141.25. So some of the challenges that we had was the approved applications being canceled without notifying the PD committee. I believe there were 16 yellow. So that's 16 applications that are either forgotten about out there that may still come in, and that's not going to be put through on the 2020-2021 funding year. It will come out of this funding year. And the thing is, too, is that the money that's committed remains committed. So if we have, last year was a very irregular year. I think we can all agree that it was definitely not your typical. In a typical year, that money that is kept committed and they don't notify us stays committed to them, and that might be the result of another member not being able to receive PD funds, because typically our money runs out on any typical year. Late submissions for reimbursement, which also leads to them being accessed out of the next year's fund. So yeah, last year we didn't even come close to spending the fund, but had we, those 3 that came through could have taken away 3 other PD opportunities for other members for that year. So given that there's such a large amount left, and given that we know that we have some of those late submissions that kind of come in and sneak into that next year, our recommendation is for a carryover of unused funds to the following year to allow for that cushion for those that it's already committed to, or to provide more opportunities for our staff, because last year there just wasn't the opportunities for professional development. And I think that concludes my presentation.
Thanks.
What do I hit?
No, thanks, Laura. I appreciate that. Any comments or questions from in here to Laura and Cole? From anybody? Trustee Duma?
No, I really appreciated the report. It's very, very thorough. I don't think we've ever received anything this thorough before, so it's very appreciated. Thank you. And I can see that there's not a lot of use of the PD money, for sure, now, during this time.
Yeah, last year, and like I said, it's an untypical year. We normally are turning people down in April and May. I sat on before I became the professional development chair, I was on the professional development committee, and we had to turn people away and say, sorry, there's no more funds. So yeah, last year was a very untypical year. My anticipation for this year is that I think, just from the sense of being in the building and hearing, people are looking for professional development, and I think that a lot of presenters have gone to that virtual platform now. They're more comfortable, there's more opportunities. Like when I look at MTS PD Day, for example, coming up, there are far more opportunities this year than there were last year. So I think that we'll see more people looking and applying for those opportunities once things start to settle down, and I think our staff really need that. Like, it's a focus to turn away from COVID for a change and get back to the professional growth, the things that we want to see in our building. So.
Anyone else in the building? Trustee Barry?
Yeah, thanks. That was very interesting. Like, my question, I got a couple of questions. My first one is, you said you have $120,000 for professional development. Does that compare to other school divisions in the province? And does every other school division have professional development?
I'll take that one. There are a significant number of associations that have contractual PD funds with their respective divisions. I think that you're asking about the amount. Significantly greater, obviously, with higher teacher numbers in those divisions. So two that come to mind, Louis Riel and Pembina Trails. And I think the Louis Riel fund is $450,000 or something like that. It's proportionate.
One question, I don't know if you could answer, maybe the superintendent can answer this one. If the teacher is successful in professional development, does that automatically mean that there's going to be an increase in salary? Like, I don't know. I'm just asking that.
Yeah, so in education for teachers, there is a salary grid that puts people into either a class 4 or a class 5 or a class 6 or a class 7. And very typically it's attached to the number of years of university. So a PD webinar or a session doesn't mean a salary increase. They would have to go and move through certification from a level 4, which is 4 years university, to a level 5, which is 5 years university, through to either 2 post-bacs or a master's degree for a 6, and I think a doctoral degree for a 7. So it's all tied to that formal education and post-secondary, not necessarily to PD sessions.
So the PD helps to attain that increase or next level, so to speak. But it's not the end all, is what you're saying.
So, professional development available for teachers to try to improve their trade. Think about it as a welder, that we're going to teach a welder how to weld better. We're trying to teach teachers how to be better teachers then, so that our students can improve in learning. That's really the bottom line of it. The only way that teachers make more money is if they get a formal education through a university, and by going on and getting a post-baccalaureate or getting a master's degree, then they go up the scale. The good question that you're asking, Art, is a good one. As we go ahead and have people take professional development, how do we know that it's working? How do we know that the professional development that they're doing? Now, these guys have contractual PD. They bargained it. It's $120,000. They're not reporting on. Laura's not here reporting on how well how well it's affecting the teachers. Anthony Penner is here with as we train teachers. Are we looking to see, as we train teachers, are we looking to see improvement in student learning? Absolutely we are. So that would be the tie to it. But this fund doesn't necessarily tie directly, it ties indirectly to it, but that's how it would go.
Yes, just one quick question. So, isn't the teacher who's hired by Sunrise, doesn't that individual have a university degree, university training? But the university you're talking about is another one on top of that? Is that what you're saying? Just so I'm clear on this.
So universities, you're going to go and you may come out of university with a class 4 license. The department goes ahead and does that. So if you have a 4-year degree, if you have a 5-year degree, and to get higher on the scale of a 4-year, a level 4 teacher, a level 5 teacher, a level 6 teacher, a level 7 teacher, and that's all part of the collective agreement. It's all about how many years of university that you're getting and how well you do at university. That's how teachers are making more money, by improving themselves. Is that fair, Laura? Kath, is that fair? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess that answers my question. I guess my only closing note is I should have been a teacher. I think I chose the wrong profession.
Well, in fairness though, teachers are putting the time in. So you know what, you're going and getting a university degree, then you're going ahead and many of our teachers are taking courses at night time to improve themselves, and it also then helps them get a better salary. Absolutely. I think that
I did take courses at the university, so but my salary was, I didn't have the option.
Thanks. Anybody online want to ask a question?
I got a question.
Go ahead, Don.
According to statistics, I think you had about 41 university courses that was applied for this year. Isn't that a huge increase from last year, or like from the year before?
Don, Paul Seraphin. We don't have that data to refer to right now, but I can certainly look it up and get back to you. I think it's similar to the prior year. We usually have between 40 and 50 applications per year for university courses.
Okay.
Anyone else online?
Trustee.
Go ahead, Trustee Paczewski.
I just want to note as well, in agreement with Trustee Doom, I really thought the presentation was full of great data and information that we hadn't seen before, so I really appreciate that. And I would like just to comment on professional development and how it's a really important aspect in any career and not just education. But I'm glad so many teachers are still pursuing education and trying to help themselves and become better teachers. And I guess to go to echo, I guess, what Trustee Barry's concerns are, and I would echo those as well. And I that pursuing these activities is for the betterment of the education they're able to provide to our students. And I just hope that at the end of the day, I guess that's where the concern is, right? And I think we always want to make sure that we're doing our part as a division and as a board to make sure that we're asking for that data and we're making sure that that's what's happening. And if it's not, it's not that we would change things, but I think we want to see that. We want to see our teachers becoming better teachers, and we want to see our teachers becoming better teachers so we're providing a better education to our students. So absolutely, PD is a great thing, but we want to make sure that we're asking for that data, that we're looking for that data, we're looking for that professional development to transition into better learning outcomes for our students. And as long as that's happening, I would 100% continue supporting professional development and even, look for more of it. But we need to make sure that that's what's happening and that's the outcomes that we're getting from this PD.
So thanks, Jared. I think that we got about 80% of that. In a nutshell, I'm going to say what you're trying to do is that, hey, we're spending $120,000, and at the end of the day, we want teachers to go ahead and learn, but we want our students we want to see the progress in our students. Is that a fair comment?
Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, you didn't catch everything I said, so I hope that not just the bad stuff came through, but I don't think there was any really bad stuff in there. But yeah, I think we need to continue putting pressure to make sure that we're seeing those outcomes and seeing those benefits from the PD that we're doing, because it's not only just benefiting the individuals and their learning, but it should be benefiting our students and the learning outcomes that our students are achieving.
Thanks, Trustee Paczewski. Laura, did you want to end with anything?
I don't know that I have a comment about that. I just want to thank you for having us here to present. I too believe that professional development is extremely important for our staff here to become better. I also think that it provides opportunities for us to grow and invest in the staff that we already have as part of Sunrise. And to look for possible, if it is later on promotions, whatever that might be, moving them into different areas. We're investing. This money is being, and I think that's the best way that I can describe it, is that this money is an investment in the people that we have hired to ensure that they are giving our students the best possible education as they can. Lastly, just the principals do sign off on all the applications before they do come in, so they are aware of the PD opportunities that their staff are attending. So like you said, if it comes back to meeting those school goals, that's great to have that data. So thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Kat?
Thank you.
Just thanks to you both for taking some time out of your evening to come here and to present to the board. And I also wanted the board to know that Laura, in the PD chair position, and the two people who volunteered to go through the applications, though they volunteer their time to do that. So they're investing in their colleagues by doing that as well. So thank you for that.
Trustee Duma?
Just one comment. It was interesting that there didn't seem to be a lot of technology PD? Or was there and it wasn't part of it wasn't captured? Okay.
No, I think I'm just going to take a gander here and say that it's probably due to our COVID and the rush that everyone had. You're right, to see that there wasn't a lot of like, how do you run virtual, do things virtually. There wasn't those PD opportunities out there. There wasn't to be provided that way. So yeah, I didn't see anything. I am in that trend at all.
Again, thanks very much for coming. We appreciate it. We do expect you to spend the next 3 hours with us tonight, so thanks for coming. No, just kidding you. Thanks very much for coming out. We're going to move on with our agenda, but we appreciate it. Thank you. We've got 5.1 on our agenda. We're going to move on. Oh, go ahead, Trustee Dumas.
Sorry, just not to interrupt, but I am interrupting. Just to make sure that our minutes reflect that this was the STA PD, contractual PD report to the board. It's something that we have asked them to do. It's in their contract. So that it's not reflected as an STA presentation. It is an STA PD report to the board. That's what's reflected in this minute. So if we went back, we would say, yes, we did get those reports every year. It's once a year they do that for us. They change what they do, and this is probably the best one I've seen, so it's very good.
Well, I think that the only thing that we could add on here, she's got 4.2, STA Divisional Professional Development Fund report, because they do need to provide us a report. So I think that just putting the report on there is certainly that they need to go ahead and do. Thank you. Let's go to 5.1, our minutes. Be it resolved that the board adopt the September 21st board meeting minutes. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Harris, seconded by Trustee Duma. Any comments to the minutes?
I will say that I did make a correction, which I sent to Stacy, and so what you're looking at in front of you is not what you got an hour or two ago. It was changed in the minutes, and it was only on 5.1 there was a date corrected. So what you're looking at now was that correction that Stacy did while we were sitting chatting.
Thank you, Trustee Duma.
And I think it probably doesn't hurt to have the minutes reflect that it's a draft, because they're not real minutes with draft on them. They're draft. And then once they're approved, just so that you don't get mixed up.
Thank
so
you.
Just so you know that it was 5.1 that was changed.
Thank you. So hearing no more comments, we'll vote. Art, we're waiting on for you to vote. So we have 7 people passed and 2 people have not. Thank you. Superintendent's report. 6.1. Kath?
Thank you very much. And I think I'm going to... Thanks very much. Again, I'm gonna use that same sentence that this is only as good as when I upload it, and it was late Friday afternoon that I uploaded it. And we had a 4th case on the weekend over at Oakbank Elementary. So we'll just add that little dash in there saying that we have a case as well at Oakbank Elementary. So that's from the beginning of the school year until this past weekend. Again, just some information about contact tracing and around isolation. Lots of that information is right on the website. But one of the most important things that we need to make sure that we're paying attention to is that contact with public health. So they are making decisions around close contacts and who needs to isolate and what that looks like. And the second most important thing is that the isolation period is down from 14 days to 10 days. So I'll grab those couple of highlights. I'm going to also ask Stacy if she can add the letter that we sent out to everybody on Monday, because late Friday afternoon there was also some public health orders that came into place, so we'll add that letter, and I want to walk through that as well for anybody here. We have begun our organized sports teams, and our athletes are starting to compete, as you would have heard in the sheriff's story, with hockey and with soccer and with volleyball, so those are safely underway. We are still in the place and space where in our schools we're not equipped and ready to have spectators in our schools because we need to be able to check for vaccination status, and we're not equipped to do that at the school level. Sports that are played outdoors or in community venues such as hockey arenas can have spectators. They have staff that look after making sure people are vaccinated and that they haven't reached their maximum capacity. So we can have spectators at sports events that are outside of our schools. We just don't have the capability to be checking everybody's vax status in our schools. Again, we've got a bit of a trade-off here, the next two bullets. So we are able to do some of the We Scare Hunger, the local food bank collections and Christmas hamper programs. Lots of the changes that happened over the summer is that the risk of transmission from material items is low. We can have shared items. So we are going to make sure that we pick up those initiatives. Christmas and holiday concerts and band concerts, unless, as Trustee Duma mentioned, are outdoors, become very limited as we're not allowed to have public gatherings and are they going to be not permitted in person at this time. Lots of our schools have done a bang-up job of virtual presentations at the holiday season and doing those concerts and putting them online, so stay tuned with our schools for those kinds of concerts. On a plus side, a lot of our teachers were really, really pleased with the amount of work that they were able to continue doing in the classrooms in the academic realm, because some of the interruptions of having to go rehearse and practice, and I know it's fantastic and delightful to watch your kid singing and acting and playing, but they really gained a lot of learning time there as well. And some of the protocols, we just got to keep doing what we need to keep doing. I do want to remind folks who might be watching that the public health orders are not decided by this room of people, the trustees nor myself. My job is to communicate that out to you, and I've hopefully communicated that out to families and parents, but I still get a couple of emails where people think that we're making some of these decisions here at the board table or myself in the superintendent's office. These are public health orders that we want to make sure that we're following and can communicate out. So here is the latest letter that went out to families, and this has to do with some increased mask wearing. And so on Friday the 1st, Public Health made some announcements that the mandatory mask use is still in effect, but according to the new public health order, people need to be wearing masks inside school or divisional facilities at all times. So masks are only to be removed when there is physical distancing of 2 meters for the purpose of eating, drinking, or for short and infrequent mask breaks. That is language that can be found at this link down below, and that's the exact language that comes out of that document from Manitoba Education and Public Health. Masks aren't to be removed when riding the school bus. They can be removed when people are outdoors or doing extracurricular school sports following the current public health guidance for the sport being played. So Manitoba High School Athletics Association has guidelines for volleyball, and the competitive volleyball teams follow those guidelines. What this new public health order is that now in phys ed class, masks are on during phys ed class with stations for breaks. So this is very strictly for extracurricular school sports. And phys ed classes, unless they're outdoors, will have students wearing masks for some of the activities. Again, just that reminder that we rely on the data and expertise of both Manitoba Health and Manitoba Education, and then it is our job to make sure that we communicate and operationalize all of these things being decided by those two entities. Masks is one layer. Second last paragraph, proper hand hygiene, staying home when you're sick are also super important to keep our schools safe. We've done a really bang-up job in our communities of making sure that if we are not feeling well, we are staying home, and that has really helped in terms of transmission across our communities. So thank you to everyone who is doing all of these things. I've said it before and I will say it again. These are not easy times, and they are certainly not fun times. They're difficult to navigate. They're frustrating. And I appreciate everybody who communicates either by phone or by email. But sometimes there are some things that come from public health that are out of our control. I will absolutely listen and try to communicate to the best of my ability what it is we need to get done here as a school division. Questions?
Questions for Cappy? In the room? Trustee Duma?
I guess when we're looking at Christmas, which is still almost 3 months away, that we've already determined that it has to be canceled because you can't take 2 months to work on preparing the concert, which in 3 months we don't know what the world will look like, right? But it doesn't mean that they're necessarily canceled either. It just means that in person would be, letting everybody know in person isn't going to happen, but there could be other ways that we can celebrate, right?
So our principals in our schools have worked really hard at making sure that they either have virtual things. They found some really great value in, I'm going to say, more students being able to participate as a class and having that go up on the website or the internet, or even sending a CD home. And so those things and ways of celebrating, a bit of a hybrid model, but yeah, the in-person attendance is probably not doable.
Keep going.
Sorry, one more question. Parent-teacher interviews, what will they look like this year?
Very likely a combination of in-person and virtual, and it will be navigated in a way where it's going to be teacher talking with parents around what works. It's going to be talking about who is either vaccinated and can come into the building. We don't have any guidance on that yet, so I don't know whether that's something we have to do. We're waiting for that. Lots of families have indicated that virtual is working fine for them, so our school principals are going to talk about that at their next COVID check-in and get a better sense of what works for families.
Diane, that was a great question, certainly about it. I'm sure that parents are wondering about it. Right now, we're October the 4th or 5th, and parent-teacher starts coming with us in the middle to end of November. So again, some more information coming. And again, I'm going to come back to you. This letter that Kathy said was dated October the 5th. You know what? Things change as we all see them as to what's going on. So yeah, that's good for how long? Who knows? What a great question. Anybody online want to ask a question for Kathy?
Trustee Inslee.
Go ahead, Karen.
Could Kathy just clarify again about the phys ed classes with regard to regular phys ed classes, masks are not to be worn, or was it just extracurricular classes? I couldn't hear everything, so could you just explain to me if anything's changed, because I know that phys ed classes in schools, masks were not to be worn, but I wasn't sure whether I caught everything just because of the reception on my phone. Sorry.
No worries, great clarification. So in phys ed classes now, masks do need to be worn. So for students who are competing on extracurricular teams like the volleyball team or the soccer team or the basketball team would follow the guidance on whether they are wearing masks or not wearing masks. Hockey team would follow the same thing. But for phys ed classes that are happening during the school day, masks are worn with areas where students can space themselves and have a 2-meter mask break. Lots of our phys ed teachers are doing a ton of stuff outdoors so that they can be mask free.
Okay, so basically, whether they're in extracurricular or competitive or just a regular phys ed class, masks have to be worn then?
In phys ed classes, yes.
Okay, and that was something that came out on Friday, you're saying?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Kathy? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Kathy, 6.2, our draft reporting schedule.
So again, just a reminder that if we're looking at what are the reports that are upcoming or what we're going to see, I will include this as always a part of my superintendent. What's that? Oh, sure. It's a lot of things to do all at once. So this is our reporting schedule. So we have a reporting schedule for trustees to look at and say here, these are the things that we can expect to have happening at our meetings. So we know what's happening on the 19th and all the way through the year. You will note that we're going to go through and the orange squares tell us what are the things that we have completed, so that as we go back and visit our draft reporting schedule, we can look at this and adjust as we need to going forward, and that will tell us whether we've hit the mark and where we're at with what we hoped to accomplish.
Any questions for Kathy? Trustee Duma?
Not a question for Kathy, I'm directing it to the chair. I know that there's a report coming out of the Secretary Treasurer's on the audit report, and on this report we don't get the auditor until the 19th of October. So we are expected on October the 19th to review the audit plus approve the audit all in one night. And I'm concerned about that. I know that when this reporting schedule was discussed, I had expressed concern about having everything put into one meeting, that I was hoping we could have had an initial report and meeting with the auditor today, and then have the vote at the next meeting. So I'm concerned that the 19th is going to be, you know, you've got a $70 million division with a $70 million report on the audit, and I don't think it does good justice to have it done in one night. So just my comment.
So I just need to understand, Scott, on the 19th, are the auditors coming to present and we're approving it on the 19th? Do we get it ahead of time, or I think that's kind of the question that you're bringing. Okay.
Yeah, they're finalizing right now. There's a possibility we could get a draft beforehand. But I do want to be clear about, you know, the purpose of an audit is not to present the results of our financial results of our year. That should have been presented throughout the year to Finance Committee, and that's not something that should be a secret. The purpose of an audit is to have auditors come in and express an opinion as to whether or not those results are fairly stated. So, you know, they will give you an opinion. I'm not sure why it would take a length of time to approve or not approve.
Trustee Duma?
The board there's nothing wrong with the board looking at the audit, raising questions, and the board could also say, ask for a further audit or a more in-depth audit on anything that we do, and say there's something here that we're not sure about. You can follow up with an auditor. It's owned by the board, so I'm not going to presume what the auditor is telling us, but I know that the board has the right to ask questions and even ask for a more specific audit about some area. So that's where I find it being all put into one night is a bit troubling. So.
Okay, so what you're bringing forward is in our report here, we're talking about the audit coming on the 19th and getting it on the 19th and looking to whether you're talking about trying to absorb it and get ready to ask questions, you know, on it and on one night. I think we'll determine that as we get it to see whether we need to take more time over it. Trustee Barry?
Okay.
Is there a timetable that we have to approve the audit? Can it wait till the November meeting? Legally, can we wait? That's all I'm asking.
Our finalized audit has to be submitted to the province by October 31st.
Sorry, Scott?
Our finalized audit needs to be submitted to the province by the 31st of October.
Is there a possibility of us getting the audit early? Like when we take a look at when do you get the audit? I guess the question is for us to take a look at the audit. Well, I guess we get it in our package, right? So we would get it in our package, you know, the Friday before the Tuesday. And you're suggesting that you potentially want to have more time or more discussion about the audit?
Oh, can I say something?
Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, the audit committee, the auditor reports to the audit committee before the board meeting. That meeting is usually 2 or 3 hours before the board meeting, and that is open to any committee meeting. Meeting is open to any of the board members. So if they think they need more time, they can come before the board meeting, and then the audit committee, the auditor then will present it to the public, because the audit has to be done in public, but he also does it to the audit committee. And that's why we elected the audit committee, to be able to have the time to study it. And the audit committee usually recommends, or they could recommend, that they've looked at the audit, and it's, as far as we're concerned, because remember, none of probably not many of us are accountants, so we're relying on experts, and that's why we pay them the money that we do. And again, it's what Scott said, is that they just checking to tell us that what Scott has given to us during the year is accurate.
Hey, Don, thanks for clarifying that with regard to the audit committee meeting with the auditors prior to it, and I guess if others are going to want to go ahead and join, they certainly can. Note that you made Trustee Duma about getting it all on, I guess trying to approve it on one night, even, what they were getting our package earlier. It's something that we can talk about and see if we want to do in the future. Trustee Barry?
Is there any thought to asking the province for an extension to get the audit? I know in my days when I was on municipal council, it was quite common for councils to ask for an extension for audited financial statement, and they were given approval.
So why don't we...
I'm just throwing it out there.
That's probably a possibility, certainly, Art, but let's see what we do come the 19th. We're going to get it ahead of time. The audit committee is going to go ahead and meet. The audit committee is going to come and make a recommendation to the board, and we'll see where we get to. Those are all good comments, though, about bringing forward. Thank you for that. So thanks. Anything else to add, Scott, with your... That's good? You're... Okay. Let's go to board business. Our COVID costs. Scott, that's you.
I think you skipped over my report, Paul. Just to...
Sorry.
No worries.
It was quick report.
7.1, correct? So I'll get through my report pretty quickly. A couple of things I've mentioned to the board a couple of times. Again, a real feather in our cap. We've filled in all the information we've had to, and now officially received our gold LEED certification for Ecole Dugald School. And I believe it was Trustee Duma mentioned that, that's something to be proud of. We do have it up on the website now. There will be some more formal plaques coming in that will actually mount at the school, so it is really something to be proud of. So again, great job to Derek and the contractors and his team. Our ICT group, I generally ask Gord for an update on how he's doing. He gave me a big wall of text here. I'll pick out a couple of things that I think are important for the board to be aware of. Board's been doing a lot of work in conjunction with Kathy and Jackie and their teams with Power BI. We've mentioned that a couple of times, and really enables us to dig into some data on report cards. I think you saw the results of some of that in Tony's report tonight with regard to report card data, so that's been a big job for him. He's working on a couple of things that I think are key to us as a division. This new COVID environment and this virtual environment is new to all of us. Working on tightening up some controls with student use tools like Microsoft Teams. And then, of course, I think I've mentioned in the past, really working hard on the two-factor authentication that our insurance providers are looking for to make sure that our data is safe and we're not subject to things like ransomware and attacks like that. So Board's been working hard on those types of things. Transportation, again, it's beating a dead horse. I wanted to give you a little more information rather than just saying we're looking hard for drivers. So here's an idea of some of the challenges we faced, some of the things that we've been doing. So as you can see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 routes where we have drivers either on leave or resigned for various reasons. Again, I don't want to get into detail on out anybody on what the rationale may be, but they're all legitimate leaves. In addition to that, I didn't put here, but our spare list has been really whittled down, so we're quite short on spares in addition to having these 11 drivers on leave. We've mitigated that by combining some routes. You'll see there 4 and 9 combined, 1, 3, and 7 turned into 2 routes around Beausejour, Route 6 and 11 combined. Unfortunately, we do have a couple of routes that are suspended right now. Selkirk's been working with us on our Route 131, which is to get students to Lord Selkirk School Division for a program not offered. And right now we're still experiencing some challenges out in Whitemouth in terms of having some drivers. The good news is we've been advertising like crazy, of course. We've got 3 scheduled to start training tomorrow, 3 individuals. We have scheduled another training course for October 25th, so we've set up that schedule. We're still looking for as many applicants as we can to fill that course right up. We're looking to fill those gaps. So you know, I keep coming to the board and saying we have a challenge. Here's we're short drivers. Here's just a little more detail, a little more background on the challenge that we're facing. Finance, the audit is now substantially complete. I'm still waiting for draft audits, and as Trustee Duma requested, I'm happy to share those with the board once I receive that and have reviewed them. The next big task on the finance department right now is EIS. We did touch base on EIS a little bit. Trustee Inslee had asked a question about some of the data that we provide to the province. EIS data collection is very important day for us as a school division. As Kathy mentioned, it's usually September 30th because of the holidays this year. We actually did student counts, and we count all the students in schools on the 29th of September. We put that data together, and it's all accompanied by various different codes. Do they ride a bus? Do they not ride a bus? What programs are they taking? And we submit all that information to the province by October 15th. And that's a big piece that sort of ties into what our funding is on an annual basis. So it's a huge job. Andrea Zieski takes the lead on most of that from our finance perspective and does a fantastic job. She's super familiar with all the codes and all the different things that go into the EIS data collection and submitting that to the province. So that is a huge job and really ties us down for a couple of weeks for sure. So that has been a report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Scott. Any questions? Trustee Duma?
Can we talk about the HBNI a bit?
Yeah, so I'll lean on Kathy a little bit to give me the educational component of that, but it's something our ICT gets involved with. It's essentially distance learning for some of our Hatarian students. They deliver education via remote systems. It's televised in a classroom essentially, and they have a teacher on the other end. They have provided those systems to us historically in our colony schools. The service hasn't been as reliable as we would like it to see, so we've had some conversations with HBNI on how to improve that, and I believe it's bared some fruit, and the system is becoming a lot more reliable for our schools.
So they came to us looking for some help, or we said we can offer some help? Like, how did? Because I guess they're using their own internet system, and now we're trying to say they can hook up with Sunrise. Like, how does it?
Yeah, we had been using their systems essentially, and it wasn't reliable. So we were looking at sort of getting our infrastructure into our colonies. Culturally, some of our colonies have a problem with that type of infrastructure on their community. So it's a bit of a challenge, but we were able to work with HBNI and get the system to the point where it was working well.
Thanks, Scott. Anyone else?
Yes, I'd like.
Go ahead, Don.
I'd like to I know Route 40 or 41. I forget which one where it is completely not running, but I'd like to commend the transportation department and making sure they contact all the parents and work with the parents, and the parents stepped up, and there is not any kids missing school because they didn't have transportation. So even though they're not going to school on the bus, they're still getting to school 100%. That's the last word I heard on Friday. So I haven't checked with the principal since then, but up until then, no kid was missing school. So I really want to commend the transportation department on working with the parents.
Yeah, I got to give Jason a huge pat on the back. And community members. He's been very communicative with parents, and we understand that in a lot of cases this impacts parents greatly. But he tries to work with them as best as we can. You'll find in a lot of communities, Don, and you know this quite well, we'll lean on each other as well and provide each other support, whether that's carpools or what have you. So, yeah, no, we understand it's having an impact on our families, and kudos to everybody for working together to get it solved.
Don, thanks for bringing that up, because it shows the small community, how they're working together to deal with a problem and get kids to school. So thanks for bringing that up. Appreciated. We're going to move on to 8.1 COVID costs. Scott?
Thanks, Paul. So I've got a bit of an update here in terms of what we're seeing for costs. I guess a couple of things I want to point out again, and I've mentioned this in the past. We're expected to receive a stipend that has been distributed on a per pupil basis this year for COVID funding of about $908,000. You can see year to date as of September 30th, we spent approximately $32,000. I wanted to put in here just for comparison's sake, and I apologize to anybody who reviewed the materials beforehand. I had a bit of a typo that didn't have the amount in here, but we've updated it now. For comparison's sake, at last year's October 6th board meeting, I presented a report that showed $260,000 worth of COVID costs. Startup was especially tough last year because of distancing. We spent a lot of money on furniture and desks for students so that they could space out, and we spent a lot of money on cleaning supplies. Some of that stuff we don't expect to repeat. I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that I think, we're going to find our operational type of expenditures, whether that's extra cleaning or cleaning supplies, I don't anticipate it's going to be as high this year as it has been, I don't want to say historically, it's only been 1 year of COVID, but as it was last year, certainly. So we do have funding available. Now, late on Friday, just as a heads up, the province did come out with a communication that indicated there'd be some reporting requirements around this $900,000, but the first thing they want us to do, they've identified 4 priority areas where they would like us to come up with a plan on how we intend to spend this $900,000. And those 4 priority areas are mental health and well-being, operations, vaccine promotion, and learning impacts. So, I think what we're doing as a senior admin team is sort of brainstorming on how we can best utilize. I don't think we're going to have trouble coming up with priorities, whether it's for learning impacts or mental health, obviously being 2 big ones. But brainstorming on what our intent is, and then getting that report out to the province by the 30th. They want to know how we intend to spend this $900,000. So that's the next step for us, certainly. October 3rd.
So then I'm assuming then you're going to come at the next time that we get together with a draft of this?
Yep, we can bring it.
Thank you. Any questions for Scott about COVID costs? Hearing none, we'll move on.
Trustee Inslee.
Go ahead, Trustee Inslee.
Thanks, Scott, for providing the 4 areas of concern. Can you just explain, or if you know, what vaccine promotion entails? I'm not sure if the province have actually elaborated on what vaccine promotion entails, basically.
The communication isn't very clear or concise on that. I mean, there's essentially a line, Karen, that says vaccine promotion, cost for vaccination awareness and promotion. Kathy, sometimes.
Oh, okay.
There is some more clear guidelines, Karen, in the return to school, safe return to school. It is one of the pillars they identified there. So they have some strategies and ideas in that document that I can forward to you if you'd like.
Yes, please, if you wouldn't mind forwarding it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Scott, for that. 8.2 is a decision-making matrix review. We have nothing to report on that. Oh.
Policy included this decision-making matrix review on our agenda at our meeting last week. We'd like to remind the board that we set the end of December to review and finalize a new decision-making matrix. We're now only 3 months from that deadline. Policy would recommend a special meeting be called sooner than later to finalize the work that was started back in the spring. We recognize that some of the items that are left to be discussed may have a difference of opinion, and we may not come to a unanimous decision on each specific item, but there is a time when when each of us must ask, can I live with it? So we got quite far with it. We're near the end. We only have 3 months to get it done. We need to have a meeting to finalize it. One meeting, let's get it done.
So you're suggesting a learning session for us to go ahead and do that? Any difficulty for anybody about us? Any difficulty from anybody of us around the table here? So there's 5 head nods that are okay. A learning session for us to finish this. Trustee Pachuski, Trustee Rowland, Trustee Nickel, and Trustee Inslee. Any difficulty from any of you about that? If there's no difficulty, you don't have to answer. Okay, so that's something that Robin, you and I will work on, and we'll work on with Superintendent Timko to find a learning session time. Thanks for bringing that up. 8.3 is the RM of Springfield proposal to subdivide. I know we have a committee that is looking to meet with the RM of Springfield, and my understanding is the RM of Springfield is meeting tonight. So Colleen Draper is meeting, and they're trying to get us some dates for our committee to go ahead and meet with them. That's correct, right, Kathy and Scott? So just to give our committee a heads up, and the committee basically is our trustees, Trustee Duma, Trustee Inslee, and Trustee Rowland, to meet with that group and with Scott to talk a little bit about as things move forward with regard to subdivisions. Any comments on that? Okay, so certainly, Scott, you'll get that information out to our trustees and get that meeting arranged once we get it from Colleen and go from there. Thank you. 8.4 is a monthly enrollment data. This is you, Kathy.
Just to give trustees an idea, this is again another one of the reports that we wanted to see in terms of what are the numbers at our schools. So you can look at the template and see that will show you at the end of each month what our schools are at for enrollment counts.
Thanks for the information, Kathy. 8.5, vaccination clinics in schools. Kathy, floor is yours.
Thanks. So this is one of those topics that I had presented last time, and I'm going to share my screen, hopefully, and put this back up here because it is an important topic, and it is one that people are very passionate about, and we need to make a decision one way or another as to where we stand on vaccination clinics in schools. So again, I just want to really quickly go through. This is exactly as presented on September 21st, our last meeting, but there is a recommendation at the end that I think we need to be fair and give the Interlake Eastern Health Authority so that they know whether they're planning community clinics or whether they're planning clinics in schools. In-school clinics in Sunrise, again, have always been run with parent consent forms. So the way that works is that they either send forms home with students, or right now we can do them online and they bring them back. Again, it's a community use of school situation where public health nurses or the health authority asks to use space in our school, and then they work through the staff in the office to just find where student A is or student B is if they have their signed consent form. In-school clinics aren't walk-in or walk-up approach. We don't have a little sign outdoors that says, here, come on in here. It is by consent form, and we find students and they come with their consent forms. Again, Public Health Act is the most current legislation that governs the administration of all health procedures in the province. We've had several phone calls and emails around, you know, why is the school division vaccinating students? We don't do vaccinations. So the school division is not in charge of vaccinating students. This is a public health task. And again, the Public Health Act is what governs the way in which vaccinations occur for all Manitobans. And to be totally, absolutely clear and transparent, the vaccination of students, whether it's in school or at a clinic, does not legally require parental consent for students 16 years of age or older. Any student who is 16 or 17 may legally make decisions about their own personal health choices with regard to vaccinations or any other medical intervention. So they can go see a doctor or a nurse practitioner or a public health nurse, and they legally have the right to do that. In school clinics, public health nurses commit to contacting parents as a first step unless a student explicitly says they do not want their parents to be notified, and that is at 16 or 17. A youth under 16 presents and would like to be considered a mature minor. They may also be allowed to give informed consent for a medical intervention, but not at that moment. Manitoba Public Health would organize for them to meet with someone, to go through an established protocol and a series of questions and an assessment, to decide whether someone who is under 16 is competent to make their own decisions. Again, we had some questions about an agreement with the health authority. We wanted a clear agreement that the health authority looks after vaccines and we would be just providing space for that to occur in the school. That's just the consent criteria following the Public Health Act and what happens for in-school vaccine clinics. If we have a motion or an agreement here, then we would do an indemnification agreement reached with the health authority, and we would begin having the dates of clinics that would be communicated to parents and also publicized on school and divisional websites. Should the board decide that they don't want to have in-school clinics, we wouldn't have an agreement with the health authority saying, you do the vaccinations, we provide the space. They would do community clinics, and they would have that agreement with a community organization. Again, after-hours clinics may be organized in communities for students and public, regardless of whether the board decides that they're going to provide space for in-school vaccination clinics or not. The reason that we are bringing this here at the board level is because it is a very front-line issue. It is a mainstream issue, and lots of people have lots of perspectives and opinions and thoughts on this issue. We have been doing vaccinations, regular vaccinations in schools for all sorts of different things, but this one is higher on the radar because of where we're at right now with a pandemic. So, recommendation, Interlake Eastern Regional Health Authority is organized and ready to begin the regular vaccine programs as well as the COVID-19 vaccine program for youth in our communities. Whether the space available in schools is used for the clinics or the clinics are scheduled for alternate sites in the community, the health authority needs to schedule those, communicate the dates and locations of the clinics, and then complete their vaccination clinics as soon as they are able. They have been able to postpone our clinics and have been working in other school divisions and communities up until now. So we haven't had any COVID-19 vaccine clinics, but in all fairness, if we're not going to have in-school vaccine clinics, then I think we owe it to them to let them know that that's what we're doing. So a draft proposed motion, and I don't make motions, the board makes motions, but the draft proposed motion would be it resolved that the Sunrise School Division allow public health personnel to use space in our schools for student vaccination clinics. Should you wish to have a motion?
Thanks, Kat. So obviously this is a pretty important thing, so I'm going to give each trustee an opportunity to speak to it, even though we don't have a motion on the floor, just so that people can go ahead and voice their opinions and hear from everyone else about it.
I think that we should follow our bylaws and to put a motion on the floor.
Okay.
I'll move that motion.
Yeah, you're right, Don, I guess. Okay, so be it resolved that Sunrise School Division allow public health personnel to use space in our schools for student vaccination clinics. Moved by Trustee Nicol, seconded by Trustee Barry. Okay, so it's on the floor. Thanks very much for doing that. So I do want to give people an opportunity to speak to it. Don, you moved it, so I'm going to give you the opportunity to speak to it.
Okay. What I'm saying this is that we've been doing clinics in school ever since I've been teaching, since that would be 1961. So, and the vaccine that they're giving is just as safe as any other vaccine they've been giving for the last 60 years. The other thing I'm doing is that this is a very simple request. It's just asking to use a school. As Kathy said, if we don't let them use a school, that means they will go either do a clinic in, I'm just using an example, I'm going to use Whitemouth, to use a clinic in Whitemouth, which means that they might have to wait, or the parents have to drive all the way to Selkirk. I'm looking at the big picture. We teach the kids about environment, to be making sure that you walk instead of using a car to save on fossil fuel. If we can even have a clinic in Whitemouth and there's 20 or 25 kids that are vaccinated, that the parents would have taken them to Selkirk, and that means they'd have to take them twice. You can imagine the amount of traffic that's on the road, plus the fossil fuels that are used. So if we talk about climate change, and that's what we do, we teach the kids about that. If we don't pass this motion, I think that we're going against what we're teaching the kids. On top of that, 84.6% of, I'm quoting it from the Free Press, 84.6% of the people in Pinawa Lactabani Health Unit, so I'm more or less talking around Whitemouth, has been vaccinated, which means that they are very strong in vaccination. They believe in vaccination, and all they asking this time, because I've talked to a lot of parents, some of those comments I've read, people say, well, what do you do, your due diligence? Yes, I talked to probably over 100 parents, maybe not quite that many, let's go down to maybe 75 parents, and they all agreed that because we know that 84.6% of the parents in the Whitemouth, Lackawanna, Pinawa area has been vaccinated. They really want their kids to be vaccinated and make it as easy as possible for them to be vaccinated. So that's why I'm asking all the trustees to vote in favor of this motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Trustee Nickel. Trustee Barry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I would be also in favor of passing this motion. I think it's our utmost duties as a board to do all we can to to curb this fourth wave of COVID-19 that's coming to our province, and to make it more accessible to students to have it in schools, of course with the parents' consent. I think that's the right thing to do.
Thanks, Trustee Barry. Trustee Inslee?
Hi, I will not be supporting the motion. 3 reasons. I've had a lot of parents reach out to me via email and phone calls and in person saying that they do not support the COVID vaccination clinics being in the schools. I've not had one parent come to me and say that they do want the COVID vaccinations in school. I appreciate that other vaccination clinics have been run in schools, but this particular one, like Superintendent Timko said, this topic is very high on the radar. Second reason being is the vaccination clinics are available elsewhere. So parents have said that if they want their child to have vaccination, then they're happy to take them themselves elsewhere. And also the third reason, the Healthcare Directives Act, which was valid as of the 1st of October, the Manitoba Healthcare Directive Act, said that a person who is under 16 years of age does not have the capacity to make healthcare decisions, and I know a lot of parents are concerned about the children under 16 being assessed as a mature minor, I think the document said. So I will not be in support of this motion for those 3 reasons.
Thanks, Trustee Inslee. Trustee Rowland?
I will support this motion, and I would just like to add that people have a choice not to get the vaccine, that's for certain, but I think it's important to have this vaccine as well as other ones we've been allowing in our schools to be provided to public as a service, to have allowed accessibility for some of our students and families to be able to get this vaccine. Some may not, and there's a very large division. There are people who may not be able to drive to clinics because of hours, whatever abilities, and this may be an opportunity for those people who have some difficulties in otherwise obtaining the vaccine to readily do it. So if I want to make that accessible for the people who may be needing this opportunity.
Thanks, Trustee Rowland. Trustee Duma?
Well, I'm not going to support this motion for sure. I'm strongly opposed to it. I think that the context of the COVID vaccine, which is very much political in the public, and there's lots of people on both sides of the vaccine issue, and the fact is that it's still an experimental vaccine that hasn't even been around for a year, and those are the concerns that I've heard from parents. I think bringing it into the schools pushes it over to become less neutral and more of an advocacy role. I have not had one concern or phone call or email from any parent asking for access into the school for this specific vaccine to have a clinic. I haven't heard about it. Nobody's mentioned it to me. It's different if there was that happening. It isn't. I don't hear it. And I don't think that access is the issue, because I think there is lots of access out there that is being provided to get this vaccine, with parents guiding their children as to what their family decision is going to be. So the comment made that this is safe as any other vaccine, that's where I'm going to strongly differ. This isn't like any other vaccine, and that's why it's so contentious. So we do all kinds of things. We do masking, we do hand washing and distancing and all kinds of things to make things safe for our kids. But I think this is an area that I really want to leave in the hands of parents. And I don't want to push the scales in a direction in the schools. The other part of it is just throw some scenarios out there, because we know kids work with peer pressure. We deal with that all the time. So you happen to have one or two students that decide to leave a class, their buddies want to join them. Does the teacher then have to stop teaching while 3 kids exit to leave the room? And there's another peer pressure environment. So we'd be very worried about this being allowed in the schools. I think that we provide as much information to parents to say, this is the nurse's number, this is where she's located, please feel free to call her and make your own decision without the added peer pressure of the school environment.
Thanks, Trustee Duma. Trustee Reed?
It's not compulsory, so I don't see a problem with it. I support vaccinations, so I would support the motion.
Thanks, Trustee Reed. Trustee Pachikowski?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to speak to the matter. So, I obviously support vaccinations. I do think we're in a difficult time with the pandemic, and that said, there's a lot of good points and good statements that were made by a few trustees just now about the topic, and I think based on the public uptake of the COVID vaccine statistics, so the amount of people that have obviously been vaccinated, I would typically want to support the motion, and I think I do at the heart do support the motion. That said, there were some comments around the table made already about the safety. Someone suggested about it being an experimental vaccine. I don't think any of us around the table are health professionals to make those assertions, and I think it's our job primarily as trustees and as elected officials to engage with our communities, to engage with our parents, and to engage with our families. And the trustee said it best, let's leave it in the hands of the parents. So let's put this back on our families. And I think because it is such a contentious issue, I do believe that the majority of our families are going to support this. But let's put it back on our families. We have 2 weeks till our next meeting. It's a quick yes or no poll that can go out to our families. We can put out a phone call to our families letting them know the poll's coming out. And I do think that the large majority of families are going to support this. But I want it to be a community decision. And if that's where we land, then that's where we land. And I do feel we're going to land there. I personally, I think, I've heard trustees say that they haven't heard anybody that's in support. And, that could be true. But I think we have to really take our own personal biases out of this decision-making as trustees, because we do have our personal biases when it comes to COVID, and when it comes to COVID vaccines, and when it comes to many other topics aside from COVID. And so we have an opportunity right now to do what we've been elected to do and to engage.
I believe vaccination is our way out of this pandemic. We owe it to our staff and students to provide a convenient location for vaccinations. Sunrise is not doing the vaccinations. It's simply a spot in the community for people to get the vaccination done. I'm in support of the motion.
Thanks, Trustee Harris. So my thought of it is, as trustee for the Powerview area, I know my area is low in the uptake of vaccines, and any kind of help that we can get certainly is important. I also am a little concerned though about the youth under 16 can be assessed as mature minors. I don't like that idea. However, I know that that's been going on for quite some time. But I know that I don't like the idea of a 14-year-old finding out, a parent of a 14-year-old finding out that they can go ahead and get vaccinated without the parents knowing. But I guess that can happen anyways. I just don't like that idea. However, everybody has shared their thoughts. So. We have a motion on the floor, but before we have a motion, Trustee Pachakowski, did you want to make a motion to...
Just a minute.
Go ahead, Trustee Nickel.
As the mover of the motion, I have the last say.
Go ahead.
The mover always has say about a motion.
Go ahead, Don.
Okay, I just want to mention is that for those trustees who think that our job is to go and poll the parents every time we have a contentious question. That's not how I read the Public School Act. We were chosen to represent our ward or our area because the taxpayers realized that we were going to make decisions that would be respect their wishes, and that we don't have to run back, and that means you're saying that you always have to go to the website every week to see what kind of question you have to vote on to make sure that you get what you want. I don't believe in that. I think that we should be passing this motion because the longer we wait, the longer the fourth wave is going to go. And somebody just says, yes, 85% of the people in Pinawa and Lackawanna Health Unit, which includes Whitemouth, are in favor of vaccination. So why are we listening to the 15% that is trying to tell us, to tell the 85% they can't have the kids going to school to get vaccinated? This is if we defeat this motion, this is the case of the minority overruling the rights of the majority. So I'm encouraging everybody to vote for this motion, and when the motion to, if there's a motion to table it, all those people that will go in favor of this, I will ask you to vote against that table of the motion so that we can get this on and get on with the life and get these kids safe. And if you go and look to see what is happening in society right now, that this Delta variant is hitting young kids a lot harder than the first variant. So therefore, this is very important we get kids vaccinated.
Thanks, Trustee Nickel. So we have a motion on the floor, and before I call the question, I think Trustee Paczewski, were you wanting to make a motion to table this?
You know what, it's Trustee Petrikowski here. I'm not going to make a motion to table it. After hearing everybody's thoughts and comments, and I said my guess is that the majority of people would be in favor of this, and so I will support the motion.
Okay, so since we don't have any other comment, I'm not going to do this electronically. I'm going to make sure that we do this so that we'll be able to call out and people will be able to vote on it. All right? So again, be it resolved that the Sunrise School Division allow public health personnel to use space in our schools for student vaccination clinics. That's the motion on the floor. So I'm going to call the motion out and people can stand, yay or nay. Trustee Nickel?
Yes.
Trustee Berry? Can we just speak into the microphone so people...
Yes.
Trustee Inslee?
No.
Trustee Rowan?
Left.
Trustee Rowan? Trustee Duma?
Is there a timeline? Is this effective immediately? And is it 1 day in the school, 2 days in the school? Is that established?
If you read the motion, it says clinics, so there can be as many clinics as they want.
Yes.
So in other words, this doesn't have any parameters around it. It's clinics whenever.
Yes, it doesn't say student vaccination clinics for COVID. It says school vaccination clinics. We're just saying that we are reaffirming what we've always allowed the public health to do since 1961, is to have clinics in the school.
Trustee Duma?
I think it clouds the discussion here, because I don't think people are discussing vaccination clinics. We're discussing COVID vaccination clinics, which is why this is on the table. So I think it's disingenuous to say it's about vaccination clinics, because that's not what this is. It should state it. So I'm voting against it.
Thank you. Trustee Reed?
Yes.
Trustee Pachkowski?
Yes, I will support this motion.
Trustee Harris?
Yes.
And Trustee Mangan votes yes. So it's 7-2. The motion passes. Kathy, we have on 8.6, grade 9 to 12, credit attainment. Floor is yours.
Thanks. I think it is my own fault that I left one of the attachments off. So Stacy has just added the graph and the PowerPoint. So I think I would like to probably either go through this tonight really quickly on the report part, but then also have it as an agenda item next time, because the graph part was missing for folks to look at. If you'd prefer, I can just take the whole package and do it next meeting, and people can have time to do that.
Kath, can we, so great, we want that information. I know it's on. So Kath, I know that it's on there, but if we're adding something tonight, let's bring it up at our next meeting, and so let's move on for it. So basically, we're tabling this for you to go ahead and present. Are we okay with that? I think that's something that we said as a practice we would go ahead and do. Thanks, Kath. No worries about it. So thanks. We'll come back to that as to where we are. I just need to check. Trustee Inslee, are you still with us?
Okay. Karen.
Okay, Karen, you're back with us?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Karen, we just basically tabled 8.6, the grade 9 to 12 credit attainment, because there was some information added. It'll get sent to our next meeting. 8.7, board meeting calendar. Kath?
You guys had asked for a schedule, so here it is.
So we have a schedule. It's something now that I need to do some work. If we're going to have some learning sessions, I'll need to add some learning sessions to it, but that's what our monthly board meetings are. We've talked about doing a couple of learning sessions, so I'll bring a revised schedule for us at the end of October. Okay?
Paul?
Yes, sir.
Not only the learning sessions, can we also, maybe the finance, talk about it, a meeting in October, that we should be having all the budget meetings, so we plan ahead.
Do we have that? Okay, that's a good point, and there's heads nodding around here. So we will have, beside the board meetings, we'll talk about learning sessions and budget meetings that we'll present, and we'll present it the next time that we get together. I see lots of heads, so good comment there, Don, and I see Scott and Kathy shaking their heads too, so thanks for that. Let's go on to our policy committee update. So policy chair Harris, floor is yours.
At our last board meeting, a number of items were raised that could be answered by board policy, all of which were included on the policy committee's agenda that we held last week. In no particular order. One question was who owns policies and who owns procedures. Policy 6 discusses this. The board owns policies while the superintendent owns procedures. In addition, our decision-making matrix confirms that. With that said, the decision-making matrix does say that in certain circumstances, the superintendent is to inform the board, including the addition of a new procedure or controversial changes that may result in public concern. And as I mentioned earlier, our decision-making matrix must be, we need to continue working on that, so that area could be looked at again. Second, there is a concern raised about the inaugural meeting voting process. There is nothing in policy that we found that states what happens when a trustee is voting from a remote location. Policy will be looking at this and will bring forward some wording on voting by proxy. With that said, a year ago, at least one trustee voted remotely using the same format that was used this year. The Policy Committee would like to point out that no matter how the remote votes are being passed along, and even the tallying of the votes, that there has to be a level of trust between all parties. In addition, we felt that submitting these votes by senior admin is the preferred method, as they have no vested interest in how the committees are formed. Lastly, the Policy Committee, and I meant to say this at our last meeting, would like to remind all board meetings to review the policies, procedures, and operational bylaws regularly. The start of a new board year is a good time to do any of this. And at our last policy meeting, we were reviewing policies 1 through 3. Each of these has some strongly worded text that is most appropriate to be reviewed by all board meetings on a regular basis, even every couple of months, we felt. And our next meeting is scheduled for October the 14th. Thank you.
Thanks, Trustee Harris. Any comments for questions for Trustee Harris? Come on, let's ask him about 20 questions. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Trustee Harris. Good job. We're going to move on to Trustee Pachikowski, you have a question?
No, I just want to commend our policy committee for the work they continue to do, because they're doing a fantastic job.
Thanks, Trustee Pachikowski. So I'm going to go on to Finance Committee update. Chair Nicol.
There's really no updates, because we haven't had a meeting. First meeting is October 21st. So in the November meeting, I'll have a report.
Thank you for that. So in our minutes here, it shows that Trustee Magno is our signing authority for October. We do not have a Finance Committee check register, is that correct? Okay. So professional development with our board, financial monitoring report. So we do have a financial monitoring report. So be it resolved, so this is 10.1, be it resolved that the board adopt the financial monitoring report for the month ended May 2021, reviewed by the Finance Committee on June 23, 2021. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by?
So move.
Trustee Nicol, seconded by? Trustee Reed. Any comments to the financial monitoring report? Hearing none, we'll vote. How are we doing, Stace? We have upcoming meetings, a board meeting October 19th and a board meeting November the 2nd. We are going to move into in-camera, but questions from the public. Mr. Carlton, any questions from the public?
I do have two. I have replied to one requesting a civic address and not heard a response, so I'll leave that one for now, but I'll read the first. This is from Chen Hoare in Garson. The increase in housing in the Tyndall and Garson areas, is there any prospect of getting a grade 7 to 12 school in the area so that our children don't have to transfer to another town? Considering the shortage of bus drivers and the situation with busing, I think that having a school in the immediate area for the 7 to 12 grades would be extremely beneficial and would help alleviate some of the current stress on parents.
I can try, or anybody else can try. I think that there's a huge process that people go through about looking for when we look to add schools. And so the process certainly is with regard to where we are with our existing schools, the enrollment in our existing schools, where we are with capacity, where we are with growth in each of the communities. It hasn't been something that's been on our radar about going ahead and taking a look at it. However, you know what, senior admin and the board certainly can discuss the question, but your question is, it hasn't been on our radar about looking about a school in that area. Does anybody else want to comment to that?
Yes, can I make a comment?
Go ahead, Don.
When I got on the board in 2006, we had on our radar at that time to have a new school in Dougal. It took us until about just 2 years ago, from 2006 until about 2 years ago. That's how long it took us to get a new school. I agree. I probably agree with that we should be looking at it, but it's not going to be immediate fix. It's not going to help our busing in the near future. Even if they approve it just even today, it's still going to be 2 or 3 years in the making before we ever have a new school in. And they're not going to approve it that way. It's a long process to get a new school in the area.
Thanks, Trustee Nichol. Mr. Carlton, is there any other questions? Okay, so hearing no other questions, we are going to move into in-camera, and yes, we do have a number of motions coming from out of in-camera. Do we want to try and tackle those motions right now for some of them, or should we all wait? What's the... Okay, so we do need to go back into in-camera, and then we are coming out to look at, so there are a number of motions. There's probably about 4 or 5 of them that are going to come out from in-camera. So it's 9:15. We're going to go into in-camera, so we're going to take about a 2-3 minute break, and then we'll be back. Yes, sir.
Instead of going in camera, we probably won't get finished in the 15 minutes. Can we just pass a motion now to extend the meeting to 10 o'clock?
That's a great idea, Don. So make a motion to extend the meeting till 10 o'clock.
Yeah, that's what
So you're going to make the motion, thank you. And it's going to be seconded by Trustee Duma. I'm going to go around and just ask, is anybody opposed, as opposed to everybody wanting it? Anybody opposed in this room? Is there anybody opposed? Trustee Reed is opposed. Is there anybody opposed online? You're not the only one. I'm working on it. Okay, thanks. We've rejoined. It's now 9:34, and 17.0 is we have some motions. 17.1. The first motion is, be it resolved that the board refer the matter of developing a process for the assistant superintendent, secretary treasurer, and the superintendent to renegotiate their contracts to the policy committee. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Harris, seconded by
Trustee Nichol.
Trustee Nichol. Comments on it? Hearing none, we'll vote. And so it passed 8-1, thank you. The second motion coming out of in-camera, be it resolved that the board offer the position of the École Dugald School Intern Assistant Principal as recommended by the superintendent. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Rowland, are you moving this?
Yes, I'll move.
Thank you. Seconded by Trustee Reed. Any comments to it? Hearing none, we'll vote. And it passed 9-0. Thank you. 17.3, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees directs senior administration to perform a review of roles, responsibilities, and salary structures in the Transportation Department to be returned by January 31st, 2022. Need a move moved by Trustee Berry, seconded by Trustee Duma. Any comments to this? Hearing none, we'll vote. And it passed 9-0, thank you. And the fourth resolution, be resolved that the Board of Trustees elect Trustee Don Nickel as the chair for the negotiating committee for CUPE Union 4456 and for the two CUPE Union 1618 bargaining units. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Reed, seconded by Trustee Berry. Comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. And it passed 9-0. So I think then that we're ready to adjourn. Is that right, Mr. Carlton and Ms. Timko? So I need a motion to adjourn. Motion by Trustee Berry. Okay, thanks guys.
By the way, according to our bylaw, I believe that we have to vote on it.
Vote on what? To adjourn?
On adjournment, yes.
I don't know.
We don't have to do it right now. It's not a whole bunch of time, but I'll get our bylaw and I'll send it to you, Paul.
Sure. I guess we just haven't been doing it for the last 3 years, and so if we have to go ahead and do that, we'll go ahead and take it.
I read my bylaw again last night.
All right. Well, thanks very much, guys. Do you know what? If we have to do it in the future, Don, we'll do that. And